Nice job.
Okay, how do we follow that? I'm not sure, but thank you all so very much for being here. We're going to talk about adaptability and transformation today. I'm Allison Freihoff, I'm with AWS Nonprofits, and we spend all of our time thinking about mission outcomes, about how cloud technology and better leveraging data can lead to better mission outcomes and accelerate those mission outcomes. And I think today, in particular, we're going to talk about urgency, and we're going to talk about that each and every one of the nonprofits that we work with, that all of you may work with, have urgent needs. They have an urgent need to transform. They have urgent needs to respond and adapt to what's happening in the world. What's happened over the last 2 years, we've seen tremendous transformation. And when we talk about nonprofits, AWS is honored to be able to work with charities, to be able to work with NGOs, membership organizations, NPO technology organizations, nonprofit technology organizations, and even some nonprofit credit unions, research institutes, and each and every one of them is looking for ways to transform, to move their mission forward, and to do that with great urgency. And I am so lucky to be joined by a couple of champions, I think I said that right, today. And I'd love for Michael and Amy for you to introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about your organization, because I think it's important that everyone know where you're coming from, and then we'll get into some other questions. So let's start with Amy.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Wonderful to be introduced as a champion. I feel like that's a good vibe to start with. I'm Amy Fowler. I'm the Director for Vaccine Programs at Nexleaf Analytics. Nexleaf is a technology nonprofit that partners with countries to ensure that decision makers have the data they need to build lasting solutions for the health of their people. I have the pleasure of overseeing our vaccine program, so speaking of urgency, there's a lot going on these days. My team partners with ministries around the world to make sure they have the data they need to keep their vaccines cold, and we work with regional and global actors to set policies and generate evidence around country-owned data and giving countries data and sort of putting the power back in their hands to make decisions for the benefit of their people. Thanks again.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Michael.
Great. Thank you, Allison. Good to be here with all you social innovators. That's a great title as well, along with champions. My name is Michael Hund. I'm CEO of EB Research Partnership. And we were started by a group of parents who were just set out to save their children's lives, along with Jill and Eddie Vedder. And we have one big, bold, audacious goal. And that is to cure the devastating and life-threatening rare genetic disease, epidermolysis bullosa. We won't make you pronounce it. We call it EB for short. Our goal is to cure that by 2030. Leading researchers in the world believe that we can do it, so it's a great mission to run towards as quickly as possible. We leverage a really innovative venture philanthropy impact investing model. We partnered with companies like AWS, all to put speed in our mission, not only to cure EB, but to pioneer a really game-changing model for the 400 million people that live on this planet with a rare disease.
Thank you. Michael, maybe let's start with you. It's so great to hear a bit about your work, but we're here to talk about adaptability, innovation. Tell us how you're using technology, and tell us how you're using data in particular to advance your mission.
Yeah, I mean, look, at its greatest, technology brings people together, right? It's the greatest connector. For us, you know, patients are the center of everything that we do, you know, and what do patients want? You know, Mr. Roker just mentioned his own journey with disease. Patients want answers, they want treatment, they want data, they want information. But there's some pretty big barriers in the healthcare system, and we don't have time to talk about many of them today. But a big part of that is just siloed information, right? There's a market inefficiency that clinicians, doctors, biotech, pharma, patients, they're not really connected always and on the same page, right? So how do we think about solving that? We embarked on, you know, something so simple, but pretty innovative and bold, which the greatest ideas tend to be. We engaged with AWS, and they said, look, we want you to get all those stakeholders in one room. And we're not going to allow, I'm pretty sure y'all lock the doors. We're not going to allow them to leave until you come out with a one-sentence problem statement. So we gathered clinicians, bioinformatics specialists, doctors, researchers, patients, biotech, pharma, and we put them all in one room. And we talked about how we can start to build a technology platform and a product that serves all of those individual stakeholders. How can we unite them and bring them together? And what we emerged was, we need to build a patient-led, patient-driven technology platform that aggregates clinical information, genomic information and what we call patient-reported outcomes. And something we forget about sometimes in healthcare is the patient. Give that data back to the patient so they can curate their journey with the disease, but also have that data inform research and discovery, clinical trials, and eventually, approved treatments and cures.
Thank you. And thanks for talking about how we like to work with our nonprofits and all of our clients, and that's working backwards from your needs and really listening and hearing. You have a totally different journey going on, Amy. Tell us more about what Nexleaf is doing and Nexleaf Analytics. So you're working with data a lot.
We do work with data a lot. We often say we are a data company. So to us, data provides one set of shared truth. So we work across ministries of health to ensure that stakeholders at all levels are looking at the same data. We are a technology company. Our technology generates that data, and in particular, our technology is called Cold Trace and monitors the temperature of cold chain equipment. So for those that don't know, that most vaccines need to be kept between 2 and 8 degrees to remain effective. So beyond that, they lose their efficacy and they don't deliver their intended immunity. That's bad. Members of the ministry at all levels need to be able to look at the performance of their cold chain equipment so that they can make decisions to keep their vaccines safe. It's particularly important that they are looking at sort of one set of shared data because there are different actions that happen at different parts of the ministry. So for example, if a fridge is not performing at the facility level, a nurse might look and see if they can fix it quickly, or they would move vaccines to another safe storage point. At a district level, an immunization officer might send a biomedical engineer or a technician for a longer-term solution to that fridge. At the national level, someone in the ministry might know that they need to buy a new fridge. In the absence of looking at the same data, though, some of those decisions won't happen, and that results in weak points in the cold chain and vaccines that don't work. So the current standard, in the absence of remote temperature monitoring, is paper-based. Staff at a facility write in a little logbook what the temperature is. If there's a problem, they see if they can fix it, or they call one person that might fix it. That person might call someone else that needs to know. But that data is rarely digitized, and it's rarely aggregated. So what that means is everyone is looking at different information, and they can't actually look across the board at the best way to spend resources. So some of the benefits that come from shared data include the ability to target financial and human resources across a system, the objective data to advocate for the resources needed from internal and external actors to make decisions about the cold chain, and the ability to decide where to send staff, where to buy new fridges, types of new fridges to buy. So we are very lucky to partner with ministries of health, particularly around COVID. COVID vaccines do not otherwise have a means to show if they've had a temperature excursion. So data to us is the key to equipping stakeholders to making those informed decisions.
Fascinating. And the whole cold chain has become, I think, something in a lot more people's vernacular with the COVID vaccine. And so really interesting to hear how that data gets used throughout that chain. How do you know if you're being successful? How are you using data to understand if you're making a difference? What metrics are you using? Because I think that's so key to being able to talk with your stakeholders, also to be able to talk with the ministries, to be able to talk with your stakeholders, beneficiaries, parents, patients, researchers. Let's go back to you, Amy. How do you know if you're making a difference? What are the metrics that you're tracking?
So first and foremost, our goal is to partner with ministries of health to achieve their goals. So success for us means that ministries are achieving what they have set out to achieve. That varies in different countries, and that's by design. We are not the type of partner that comes in and wants to change how a ministry is measuring their own progress. But generally speaking, that's something to the effect of how much time are vaccines spending in the right temperature range. So we can look across countries, we can see how they're doing, but really we feel successful when countries feel that they're achieving their goals. How do we know that we're moving in the right direction? I think of that in terms of breadth and depth. In terms of breadth, we monitor vaccines in over 25,000 pieces of cold chain equipment and protect the vaccine supply for 1 in 10 children born on Earth each year. We're constantly expanding, which means new countries have access to and visibility into their cold chains and are better able to manage their cold chains, resulting in safer vaccines and more immunity. In terms of depth, we are regularly looking at new ways to bring forward evidence around data use and adding value to data and value with data. So one example, we are currently working on monitoring vaccines during transportation. Vaccines need to be kept cold at all points, including when they're driven between a national cold room or a facility to the last mile. And currently, that happens kind of ad hoc and not in a digital manner. So we are looking at the impact that can result, the decisions that can come from that. Monitoring vaccines during transportation, for example, will show their temperature, will show temperature excursions, and will show the efficacy of certain routes and certain transport vessels. That's one example of the type of depth work that we're doing, and the way that we measure impact on that work is the amount of evidence generated and ultimately the amount of policies that are shifted. So how do we know that we're successful? I will leave you with a story. A quote that I have heard from a number of our ministry partners is something to the effect of, "I sleep better now. I used to stay awake at night, and I would wonder about my vaccines, and I would wonder if someone was going to call me. But now I know that your system is watching them, so I can sleep soundly at night because in the morning they'll be fine." So to me, that's a pretty good sign that we are moving in the right direction.
Thank you for that. Love it. Love it. Michael, how are you measuring? How do you know you're making a difference?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're a parent and you're fighting to save your kid's life, time is your most valuable asset, right? So time is your most valuable metric for us. In the EB community, life expectancy is 1 to 30 years old, right? So every day is important. Our mission, our impact is restoring childhood, advancing treatments, advancing a cure, and saving lives. That's our ultimate measure. For rare disease at large, just by quick show of hands, how many people know somebody with a rare disease? Almost every single person in this room, right? So individually, these are very small, often overlooked diseases. At large, in aggregate, 10% of the planet has a rare disease, right? That's more people than cancer and HIV combined, to put it in perspective. Yet, 95% of those 400 million people with a rare disease have 0 approved treatments, 95%, including EB. We'll talk about a massive problem to solve by leveraging technology. So we've made some progress, right, with the help of technology partners like AWS. So in the last decade, we've gone from 2 clinical trials, bleak landscape, little hope. Today, I'm proud to say we have more than 30 clinical trials, 4 phase 3 clinical trials. For the first time, we'll probably have our first approved EB treatment within the next year, leading researchers on the planet, because EB is monogenic, similar to sickle cell or hemophilia, believe that we can cure this not only in our lifetimes, but by 2030, right? So this is why we wake up. This is the urgency. This is why we want to accelerate in every single means possible to move as quickly towards that goal as possible. So what does it all mean? What's the difference in impact? Traditionally, a family gets diagnosed with a rare disease. Sometimes they're lucky enough to have a diagnosis at birth. Sometimes it can take years and years trying to find the right specialist, trying to find the right doctor. Then they go do the internet search, right? And it's frightening and it's scary and there's a lot of unknown things and it's a really difficult landscape to navigate. We went and had a big vision and a big, bold idea. What I'd advise every social impact organization is that if you don't have a technology strategy for the important causes and your missions that you will serve, you might not be around in 4 or 5 years, right? We had a big, bold vision. We didn't have technology staff in-house to do it, so we partnered with the world's leading cloud computing company. What's the difference today? What have we built? Parent is diagnosed, has a child that they think may have EB. We send a genomic testing kit. They swab a cheek. Immediately, they get a test result that comes back with a genomic counseling session. They get connected to the best doctors within their radius, clinical trials that are mapped to their own genomics and self-stated information and their reported outcomes. They get linked to families who are just like them. We built the GPS for patients, the global patient system, except for right and left turns for us is the right treatment at the right time, and the destination is a cure. And we simply wouldn't have been able to build it without working with world-class technology partners. So maybe a take-home message, make sure you have a strong technology strategy and go out and build what's going to put speed and urgency into your missions.
Thank you, Michael. Amy, any last words for the group here? We were talking earlier, it's an incredible group that the Social Innovation Summit has brought together. Any comments that you'd like to give?
I would go back to your point on urgency. I feel like there are so many issues the world is experiencing right now, and as I think I could speak for most in this room know, technology can really bridge those gaps. So a strong partner like Amazon Web Services, using technology to fill gaps and looking for different solutions. Working around the world brings lots of amazing partnerships and relationships, and it is incredible to see the different ideas, and I am excited to see what technology will do for us in the future.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I would urge the same as we continue on the next day and a half. that thinking about as you're funding, as you're thinking about the organizations that you're working with, the nonprofits, that it's absolutely about the mission. It's about accelerating the mission. It's about supporting the champions and change makers and innovators. But that has to come with utilizing the most modern and capable technologies that are out there. And I just hope that when you're thinking about that, you're thinking about how to help them do that. So with that, I will say thank you, Amy. Thank you, Michael, for being here. Thank you, all of you, for everything that you do every single day. So appreciated. And we will see you out in the conference. Thank you very much.